What's going on? This is Big G from Ryders and welcome to another episode of Testing Rides. Today, I'm going to be testing out my 2001 first gen Lexus IS 300.
Perfect, perfect.
Welcome to the first gen Lexus IS 300. Introduced for the 1998 model year, this was Lexus's entry into the compact luxury sedan market. So, since this vehicle was released back in '98, this has been a very popular car among both people who want small, sporty luxury cars and also for driving enthusiasts, just because there is a lot of modifications possible on this car. It is not a very heavy car, and modifications are both cheap and fairly easy to do on this vehicle. So this is a 2001 Lexus IS 300, and all IS 300s from the first generation came standard with a 2JZ GE. This is the naturally aspirated version of the 2JZ, making 215 horsepower and 218 foot-pounds of torque. Since this is a pretty small car, it weighs only about 3,200 pounds, which is pretty good considering that most cars of this size are about 3,500 pounds or so now in modern days. So since this is an older car with kind of older technology, it only gets about 18 in the city and 23 out on the highway, which is absolutely ridiculous considering this car only weighs 3,200 pounds and has only 215 horsepower. I mean, it's just, things have changed quite a lot, but I still think those numbers are absolutely ridiculous. My GS 300 that I have gets about the same gas mileage and it weighs about 500 pounds more. So because this car is way lighter, it theoretically should get better, but it doesn't, which is ridiculous. But this car is not about getting good fuel economy. This car is about the way it drives and handles. So back in this day, this vehicle was 2018 equivalent to $44,000, which is quite a lot of money. But here in modern day, in 2018, these first gen Lexus IS 300s are about between, on the low end, about $4,000, and on the top end about $10,000. And the $10,000 model is a very low mileage one owner example, or is a sport cross model, which is the wagon, which is pretty rare, which is the one that I wish I would have gotten but I didn't want to spend that much money on a car. So even though these are cheap cars, I don't recommend this car as a first car because it's small and it's a little bit more sporty. Insurance rates are a lot higher on these than on the GS, because the GS is a bigger, slower car, and this one, because of kind of its history and kind of who buys these cars now, are in a higher insurance group than the GS. But I do highly recommend it if this is not your first car and you're not 16 years old. But these are definitely cool cars. This 2001 Lexus IS 300 is actually my car. I actually sold the GS 300 that you guys might have saw. I'll put a link to the video over here somewhere. I actually sold it to my younger cousin for his first car, and then I bought this to replace it with. And one reason why I bought this car is the simple fact that even though this car has a pretty weak engine from factory, the 2JZ is a pretty solid engine. But it doesn't have a whole lot of power just because it's a 2001 model year car. But I was gonna do it, maybe turbo it, or I was gonna engine swap it, because that's pretty reasonably cheap to do on these vehicles, because this could basically be like a 4-door Supra with the right modifications. But after I bought it in August and it's now October, so I had about 3-4 months or so, it's time to sell the IS 300, just because I already have my more fun, more sporty car, and I want something a little bit more comfortable now. So even though this is a review, this is kind of the last final drive I'm gonna do with my IS 300. So with all that said, let's go ahead and take a look around the car, and then let's go ahead and get into the interior and see what it's looking like. All right, welcome to the walk around of the 2001 Lexus IS 300. Taking a look around it, I feel like the Lexus IS 300 has, just like the other Lexus from its era, this car has a very timeless body style. Like, just now it is starting to look old, but it's a great looking older car. And I think that, you know, Lexus, this is kind of a golden era of Lexus designs, where they just want to make them look really nice and really new for a very long time. And honestly, just like the LS430 that I reviewed and my GS 300 that I used to have, I think this design is absolutely beautiful and absolutely timeless. But I think there's a couple modifications that can be made to make these look better, but I'm not going to be really doing that. So down here, one thing that I did do on this vehicle is I did put a little aftermarket exhaust on there. I'll put up a clip in a little bit of what it sounds like before we go on the driving portion, but I don't really like that color, that tip. I actually ordered a different color tip and they sent me the wrong one, but I just didn't want to wait and send it back, so I just left that on there. But it does have the aftermarket exhaust on it. I was going to put new wheels on it, but I decided not to because I actually do kind of like these factory IS300 wheels. The solid 5 stars are like Mercedes style wheels. I think they look pretty nice. But for the most part, I think the IS300 is a good looking car. And I feel like with the right modifications too, this car can look absolutely beautiful. All right, let's go ahead and hop in, see what it looks like. Since this is a 2001 model year car and kind of the cheaper one, it does only have the key, so all right, there is the inside of my 2001 Lexus IS300. All right, let's go ahead and hop in and see what it's looking like inside here. All right, welcome to the inside of the 2001 Lexus IS300. I'm not going to talk about this interior too much because it's not a new car or nothing, but I'm just going to kind of give a quick summary of a couple things that I like about this and a couple things that I don't like about it. So, first thing that I like about it, I love that instrument cluster. It's like a watch. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn on the car. I love how everything comes to life. It's a pretty awesome looking gauge cluster. The center is pretty dated here, and that's why I added this aftermarket JCV, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto deck here. And I also like these seats. These like black leather and Alcantara seats. They look pretty nice. And also it does have heated seats, and that's all your information down here. But I think that the center console here is pretty simple, pretty let out nice. I like this kind of ball shifter thing here. And then there's your mode, your snow mode, and then your power mode, which is like Lexus, older Lexus sport mode, which is pretty nice. But for the most part, this interior is decently comfortable. Like, it is kind of small in here, because you guys know I'm a big dude, over 6 feet tall, over 350 pounds, and I fit pretty decently in here, but it is kind of small, which most people that are going to watch this video are going to comment on, but I know it is kind of small. But, you know, it's actually decently comfortable. Like, I had a decent amount of headroom. Sunroof is nice. It gives you a little bit extra headroom in here. Actually, it's a big sunroof, too. But definitely, it's a decently comfortable car, but it's not the roomiest car in the world. Also, then go out on a drive. Welcome to the driving portion of my 2001 Lexus IS300. All right, let's head out. Go ahead and head out on the road and see how this thing drives. Start off here with a quick little pull. All right, now we're out on the road in the 2001 Lexus. Now we're out on the road in the 2001 Lexus IS300. The Lexus IS300 from stock drives really nice. It feels like a very solid luxury car. It's really comfortable. It's pretty quiet too. Like, this car only weighs like 3,200 pounds or so, and it's pretty quiet for a 2001 car. But like, one thing that you got to remember with these cars, like, even though they're the sportier version of the Lexus IS, it still is a Lexus first. It's Lexus first, then the sportiness second, and that's what kind of makes this car made this car pretty cool back in its day, and that's why this is a very popular segment when it comes to luxury cars now. You get your sportiness and you get your luxuriousness. It's a hard word to say. The power in this car is actually not as bad as the numbers would suggest. Like, I think this does 0 to 60 in like 6 something seconds, which wasn't bad for back in its day, but nowadays it's not very fast, considering that like hot hatchback with 4-cylinder turbos make more horsepower and they're way faster 0 to 60. But because this is an inline 6, all of its power is towards the top end. So when you get past, when you're going past 60, kind of high, well not past 60, but past like 4,000 RPM, it starts pulling a little bit harder. Which, again, this is an inline 6, so that's where all the power is up top. So the handling of this car is, it's very good for being a 2001 car, because you guys know my other car is a Mark 6 Volkswagen GTI, and that car is kind of like, it's a very modern car, so it handles like a modern car. And this car handles a lot worse than that car, but it's actually pretty good, like I said, for being a 2001 car. The suspension is decently compliant around corners. Like there's not that much body roll, and the steering it's pretty communicative around corners. Here we are going over a rough road. The camera might be shaking a little bit. Sorry about that. But as you're seeing, I'm not moving around very much in this car. Like it's not jarring or anything like that. Kind of what you can see is the little air freshener here is moving around. But besides that, you know, this is a comfortable ride. It's a quiet, comfortable ride, and it's a luxury car first. And you know, like this car has held up pretty well for being a 2001 car. Like the outside, the paint is the clear coat is faded a little bit. So like, I mean, you probably can either get this car plastic dipped or wrapped or get the paint fixed. But for like, you know, that's an easy fix considering like the rest of this car is pretty solid mechanically. Like my car has 159,000 miles on it, and it drives excellent, and that's what makes these older Lexuses so desirable, and actually what helps them keep their value. Like you would think a 2001 car should be $2,000, $3,000. Like I'm saying, like a lot of these are actually quite expensive, like between $4,000 and $8,000 for the sedan, with, you know, decent amount of miles for its year, and then like higher than that if they have really low miles or one owner, or the Sport Cross, which is the wagon. So, you know, these have been very good. This is a very good car, and I definitely recommend it if you're looking for a fun, small, older Japanese car that you know it's going to be reliable. I honestly think that if you want a little bit more space, just get a GS, because the GS is the middle between the big luxury sedan and then this one. But like you guys know, I'm a big dude. I'm over 6 feet tall and 350 pounds, and actually I'm pretty comfortable in this car. Like it may not look like it, because, you know, this angle that you're seeing me now is probably the most unflattering angle that anybody could be in. But this car has pretty decent amount of room. Like I have decent amount of leg room. I have decent amount of shoulder room. I just wish that the center console came up a little bit higher, and I had a little bit more headroom, because I put my head over here. My head touches here, but that's why I kind of keep my head over here in the middle near the sunroof. And thank God for the sunroof, because I feel like this car I have less headroom than for this sunroof. But also it's a huge sunroof too for a car like this small. So at this point, I've been back and forth between selling this car and keeping this car for the last month or so, because I basically have two cars that do kind of the same thing. Even though this car's rear-wheel drive and my GTI's front-wheel drive, they're both kind of sportier cars. And, you know, I've had this car for a couple months now, and I liked it. I just didn't fall in love with it like I did my GS300, and, you know, not the GS300. I just didn't fall in love with it like my other cars that I've owned. And for that, this is going to be the shortest owned car I have, because by the time this video goes up, this car is either still for sale or sold already. I just didn't bond with it that much. Like it's a comfortable car. It's a fun car to drive. It's decently quick. It sounds really nice, as you can hear by the exhaust back there. But it just didn't get me in the right way. Just because like I review a lot of brand new cars, and I feel like that kind of like, and the simple fact that my other car is a modern car, it just kind of hurt me loving this car. And you know, I kind of want a newer, more luxurious car than a more comfortable car, because there's no point in having two cars that do about the same thing, you know what I mean? So for that, this car is it's either gonna be for sale or sold by the time this video goes live. But you know, I've enjoyed these couple months with this car. I've enjoyed these couple months with this car. It's a great car. It just wasn't for me. And you know, I've always wanted one of these cars, but now I've owned one, I'm kind of over it. You know, And if people who have owned cars for a short time, you kind of know how that can be. So this car is up for sale. If this car is still for sale by the time this video goes up, I will put the Craigslist ad down in the description box below. If not, I'll let you know that it is sold. But it's been a great car. It's been very reliable. It's comfortable. You know, it has decent miles for the year, and you know, I was happy to own this car for the short amount of time I did. But it's just time to move on to something a little bit bigger and a little bit more comfortable. Because I mean, I have my Golf, and that's my sporty car, and there's no sense in having two sporty cars, if that makes any sense. So, if you're looking for a comfortable, fun to drive, great looking, reliable, actually very, very reliable, like older Japanese luxury vehicle or older Japanese vehicle, you definitely should take a look at the first gen of the Lexus IS300. But if you want a little bit more space, get a GS or an LS. But this car is a very comfortable car. I enjoyed owning it, but it's just time to move on to something more comfortable and more spacious. So if you like this video, hit me with the thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and keep riding me. Thanks for watching.